Ladies, gentlemen, and hunters of all ages, Wild Hearts has a full-on 8 amazing weapons in the game, each one more interesting and in-depth than the last. All of them are extremely fun to use, and today we're going to use none of them. A massive mechanic in this game is Karakuri Conjuring. It augments your attacks if you use them off of base Karakuri, and it affects your runs in this game as a whole. But what if you just forgot to use the weapon? You left it behind and used nothing but Karakuri. Can you still kill Kemono? Well, the short answer is yes, and the long answer is the rest of this video, because not only am I here to confirm that this is possible, I am also here to show you exactly how you can do it too, because honestly this is one of the easiest builds that I have played with so far, and it's actually really fun too, because as you may have guessed, it doesn't require you to get close to the Kemono, and it doesn't require you to actually hit weak spots in the slightest. You just make big Karakuri and let them do the work for you. That said, there are of course a number of things working together to make this all happen, so let's go over each one. Starting off then, you of course want to collect a bunch of Tsukumo so you can upgrade your own Tsukumo, allowing you to reach the maximum thread count of 24. More thread is more damage in this build, and so obviously you want to do this if you plan on actually playing this way. Secondarily is actually food based. This build has very specific food to perform at its peak, not your regular damage food for attack boost at all. Instead what you want is Inari fruit. You get these from the Kuzu-clad fox when you keep them in wildlife pens. You can find these on the canyon map in this area right here, just up a few sets of stairs from the default camp. One will pretty much always spawn somewhere within the zone, so just keep a lookout, go here a couple of times. Once you have 2 of these foxes set up in pens, you have a pretty solid supply of these fruits coming in. These are pretty good if you just eat 2 of them in their base form, but it is ideal if you dry some of them as well. 1 dried Inari fruit is 60 cost, a bunch of health boost, and 10% blade debar. A standard Inari fruit is 40 cost, a bunch of health boost, and 5% blade debar. This fully fills up your food bar if you eat 1 of each, and gives you not only a load of health, but of course 15% blade debar, which is an extremely important skill for this build. What this does is it has a % chance to just make Karakuri that you place entirely free. In a Karakuri only build, this skill is invaluable, especially at higher percentages, and getting 15% from food is incredible. On top of that, on every map you want a bunch of these celestial Tsukumo camps. When you use these, it essentially gives you the Hunter's Arm effect before you even get to the Kemono in the first place, which lets you start with 48 thread. Having 4 or 5 of these on each map will let you use 1 on each quest without running out of them. With that covered, let's go over our armor here. For our helmet, we have the Amaterasu helm and human path modification. The important skill on this is 12% Fusion Art Fury. This skill literally gives us 12% more damage on Fusion Karakuri. This includes the cannon and the harpoon, which are our main damage sources in this build, so this essentially just translates to 12% extra damage. For our chest, we have the human path modded King Tusk chest, and the important skill on this one is +6 strong arm thread. This makes it so anytime you use the Hunter's Arm mechanic, it gives you 6 extra thread, more damage, so this is obviously good. Then we have the human path modded Amaterasu gloves, and the important skill on these is Celestial Breath. This simply gives you a nice meaty passive thread regen. It doesn't give you an insane amount, but it does give you more thread than you'd otherwise have, and thus it is worth having around. For our leg slot, we have the Fume Beak legs, and again they have 12% Fusion Art Fury on them, which translates to essentially 12% damage boost. Then finally we have our feet, and there aren't any feet that are really good for this build. There isn't too much to be gained for Karakuri shenanigans from this specific slot, but we've gone with the human path modded final boss feet for the 25% reutilization skill on them. Reutilization gives you back thread when a basic Karakuri is dismantled. This does absolutely nothing for Fusion Karakuri, sadly. Regardless of the wording, it only affects basics, which means it doesn't do pretty much anything for this build. The only time that it will actually have an effect is if you half make a fusion and then it gets destroyed mid-build by a Kemono attack before it actually gets finished into a Fusion Karakuri, in which case you regenerate some of the lost thread. That's about it.
It's something.
Moving on to the weapon then, we're using a Karakuri katana pretty much exclusively because it simply has the ability to get the best Karakuri based skills through its upgrade path. I checked out all of the other weapons, and katana just has the best ability to be used for this specific build. Of course, if you use this build, you can choose to also hit the Kemono with your weapon, but what I intend to show here is a Karakuri exclusive build, and as such, the weapon actually doesn't matter to me in the slightest past the skills that it can give me for my Karakuri. That said, the end goal of our weapon path is the right side final boss weapon, which has 20 25% blade debar and 30% time changer as its inherent skills. It also has manifestation release as an inherited skill, but that doesn't really matter to us at all. The blade debar is of course strong, and I explained why it is strong earlier, so 25% of that skill is incredibly good for us. As for our actual weapon path and what we pick up along the way, you want to start off by heading down and then left to reach the Sal Tree Blade to pick up the +1 thread file inherited skill. This simply gives you an extra thread when you extract from a thread node. It isn't much, but it's better than nothing and gives you just a slight bit more over the course of a hunt. Then you want to head a bit more down and a bit more left to Sasanqua Blade, which gives you another +1 thread file. Then do this little diagonal loop around until you get to the Ice Crystal Rain, sort of looking like you're making a tie intercept on the weapon upgrade path, but get to the Ice Crystal Rain for the 15% blade debar inherited skill, bring this back up diagonally and around again to get the Azuma Blade for the Fusion Reaper inherited skill. This skill gives you back thread when you fully finish creating a Fusion Karakuri, and as Fusion Karakuri are sort of the point of this build, this just lets you create more and more of them as you go for even more damage on less thread. After that, we just take the quickest possible path to our end weapon, and there you go. A final weapon that has a total of 40% blade debar, Fusion Reaper, and +2 thread file. You can replace the thread file with reutilization through a different upgrade path if you really want to, though again, neither one does much if the build is being played well, so it's sort of a 6 and 2 3 scenario. Personally, I find the thread file to be more useful in general. After that, let's talk about our talismans. Talismans are mostly RNG drops in this game, which makes it hard to recommend specific ones, but what I can tell you is that if you want talismans for this build, you should farm Grit Dog. His specific talisman pool contains talismans that have Fusion Art Fury, talismans that have blade debar, and if you get really lucky, it has talismans that have both of these skills together. I farmed him for a few hours and I got some really useful ones for the build, with the absolute gem of them being this one with 6% blade debar and 3% Fusion Art Fury, an absolutely incredible find. With that covered, let's go over our full list of skills with this complete build. We've got 49% blade debar from our weapon combined with our 2 talismans. This jumps up to 64% with the proper food consumed as well that I mentioned earlier. 24% manifestation release has no effect on this build unless you use your weapon attacks, plus 5 maximum health, which is just a nice bonus from our chest piece. 16% core boost on our feet just gives us extra max stamina, which is always nice. Plus 3 earth resilience is just from one of my talismans. 26% tangle resilience from the helmet. 12% root health on the feet just gives you 12% resistance to all ailments. 33% tangle recovery on the chest gives you a 33% faster recovery rate from that ailment. Ukemi art is just sort of a bonus from the head. Plus 2 thread files from our weapon inherited skills. 25% reutilization from the feet. Karakuri coordination remedy is sort of pointless, but we get that from the arms anyways. Eagle eye for 5% attack and defense when deflecting a Kemono attack with a Fusion Karakuri. This does sort of happen on occasion just because of the way that the build works, so 5% defense isn't too bad to get for free. Again, this is on my talismans. 41% though of Fusion Art Fury from the head, the legs, and every single one of my talismans, which again is just 41% extra damage from our Fusion Karakuri. Plus 6 strong arm thread from the chest piece. Fusion Reaper on the weapon. 33% provocation from the legs. This isn't really a negative or a positive skill for us, but it is there. Celestial Breath for the arms, and then 30% time changer from the weapon. That's it for the skills then, and as you can see, we actually can get quite a bit to boost our Karakuri power and the amount of Karakuri that we're able to conjure. As for our chosen Karakuri and why, that is actually pretty simple. I messed around with the ballista a little bit, but I found it just wasn't doing enough damage or creating Hunter's arm points reliably. So instead I settled on the harpoon and the cannon. Both of them do great damage. The harpoon gives you lockdown, and the cannon is simply the most damage a Fusion Karakuri can do as long as the shot actually hits. Comboing it with the harpoon though, you can pretty much guarantee that it will hit every time that you use it. So your basic Karakuri loadout should be springs, stakes, celestial anchors, and torches, as this lets you make both of these fusions. As for your playstyle, it is somewhat dependent on your thread count at any given moment, but the general strategy is quite easy. At the start of the fight, you should have 48 thread, with our thread regen, our refund from Fusion Reaper, and our blade debar at an incredibly high percentage. This is usually enough to make 3 harpoons and 2 cannons before you run out of thread. This is an absolute butt ton of damage when used right, to put it simply. So you start with a harpoon, then you put a cannon down while the harpoon is attached to get a guaranteed hit with the cannon. Put another harpoon down to reset the lockdown, then another cannon for another guaranteed hit on a locked Kemono, then one final harpoon. If you are lucky, you will get a Hunter's Arm spot on the Kemono, which means you can get another 30 thread to play with by just sticking your arm in there. Otherwise, go look for a thread node within the zone as quickly as you can. Either way, this lets you put down more Karakuri. Generally, you want to avoid putting down a cannon if you can't put down a harpoon first, as the chance of the cannon missing is a big worry. So if you have less than 20 thread, just stick down a harpoon. If you happen to get lucky while placing the harpoon, you can get enough thread sticking around to make a celestial cannon as well. Even better. But harpoon should always be your first priority. The cannon does more damage, but only if you actually hit it consistently, otherwise it's just sort of wasted thread. So do not cannon unless you harpoon first, unless the Kemono is downed or something like that, so you can get the guaranteed hit. That's pretty much it though. Nothing particularly complex about this other than doing this stuff while dodging the Kemono. Of course, sometimes you might still die, it happens, it's alright. The fact that this can kill something like Golden Tempest in under 8 minutes, or Ember Plume in just over 6 minutes is hilarious though, and it's obviously even stronger against weaker Kemono where you can make more Hunter's Arm spots as well. Generally speaking, this build is just surprisingly strong for how easy it is to actually play, how little it actually requires you to put yourself in dangerous situations, and how much lockdown it creates as well. You could even argue this is really good in multiplayer too, and if anything it would be better because the constant harpoons are just creating damage opportunities for your allies. And that's it everyone, a Karakuri only build, a way to kill the Kemono without ever drawing your own weapon until you go for that final blow animation. If only the game would respect me enough while I'm using this build to give me a celestial cannon final blow, but we can dream, can't we? I hope you've all enjoyed this and let us know down in the comments if there are any other builds that you would like to see. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.